All right, friendly reminder to grab your glass of water. Um, Greetings, everyone, and welcome to all of you. My name is Amanda Miller. I'm the Associate Director of the National Consortium for Data Science, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our first Scaling Up event. The Scaling Up series was born out of our North Carolina Education Working Group. And this series explores the question, how are we bringing people into data science and how are we keeping them here? The data science higher education space is rapidly evolving, and we're excited to bring issues facing the data science higher education community in North Carolina to a national audience for collaborative learning. Today, we're hosting a conversation between our colleagues at Shaw University and Wake Technical Community College addressing articulation agreements. Dr. James Brown is the department head of computer science at Shaw University, a private Baptist, historically Black university in Raleigh. Kathy Frederick is the Director of Student Work Experience and Employer Advisory Partnerships at Wake Technical Community College in Wake County, which is home to Raleigh. So simply defined, an articulation agreement document occurs between two colleges or universities and lays out a formal transfer plan between two program offerings. The North Carolina Comprehensive Articulation Agreement, or CAA, is our statewide agreement governing the transfer of credits between North Carolina community colleges and North Carolina public universities. And its objective is, of course, the smooth transfer of students. Since Shaw University is a private institution, the CAA did not apply. And the folks who crafted that agreement had a bit more freedom in the terms that they included. And one aspect in particular makes this agreement very special, and that is that it highlights the applied sciences. So specifically degrees in computer programming and development, data science and programming support services, and cybersecurity. Dr. Brown and Ms. Frederick have a lot of wisdom to share on this topic, but today we'll focus on getting started, choosing a partner, creating crosswalks, mapping certifications into the agreement, pitfalls to avoid, promoting the partnership. So we have made Zoom Q&A available for attendees. Please feel free to drop your question as it arises when our guests are speaking. And if we don't get to your question during this event, we will do our best to address it in our wrap-up materials. So without any further delay, I want to say thank you to Dr. Brown and Ms. Frederick for joining us today. And let's see, Kathy, maybe, do you want to get things started? Could you tell me a little bit about how this relationship began?
Certainly. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a participant this afternoon. What we're discovering at Wake Tech is that while our associate and applied science degree students within our IT division are finding jobs very rapidly after graduation, they are finding they hit a ceiling after a few years of employment with some of our local employer partners. And they're realizing the need to continue their education and earn a bachelor's degree to open more doors for them. So with that need in mind, we're looking at opportunities to partner with senior institutions who are interested in having our students complete bachelor's degrees at their institutions. So it was certainly a wonderful opportunity for us to partner with Shaw and especially to work with Dr. Brown to create an articulation agreement to enable our students who've earned their associate and applied science degree to continue their education and open doors for greater opportunities within their career futures.
Go ahead, Dr. Brown, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. And to kind of get things started, at Shaw University, Department of Computer Science, we developed a strategic plan back in spring of 2020. And as part of that strategic plan, we wanted to revamp our technology degrees, our bachelor's of computer science, and now more recently, we have a bachelor's of cyber operations. So we were truly excited about launching the revamp of the computer science and launching a cybersecurity program. So the next challenge is, how do we get students? And so based on my prior experience, I used to work at Forsyth Tech in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, community college. At that time, I realized the impact that community colleges have on the education of our future workforce, particularly in technology. And to Kathy's point, oftentimes our students would find employment immediately after graduation, but hit that wall. And so developing this articulation agreement was important for two reasons. One was obviously to bring students into Shaw, but also to give them that opportunity to achieve their bachelor's and hopefully avoid that wall completely and entirely in a fairly quick manner. So upon completing their associates, they could apply directly into Shaw. And one of the biggest points for this articulation agreement was 2 years to completion. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the core requirements of this articulation agreement. And thankfully, we were able to achieve that.
Now, could you, either one of you, tell me a little bit about that timeline and maybe some other supports, perhaps how advising steps into this conversation and becomes an important part of the conversation?
I could just touch on the fact of the importance of it being a 2+2 agreement, as Dr. Brown alluded to. Our students are non-traditional. They are individuals who are frequently head of households, have families to support. So time is certainly of the essence for them. They're looking to complete a degree as quickly and as economically as possible. Many of our students, especially within the IT division, are individuals who are career changers. They could be in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And they're looking for a new career field that will allow them to have a much greater earning potential, with a lot of opportunities available within the Research Triangle, Raleigh, Durham area. So they don't have to relocate to find employment, providing them with very competitive wages. So for our students, it's very important that they can find an institution that will enable them to complete their degree as expediently as possible, knowing that they still have families to support and are probably going to be working, if not full-time, a great number of hours while they're working on completing that bachelor's degree. So we were extremely grateful for this opportunity that will enable our students in a very short period of time to be able to complete that bachelor's degree.
And to Kathy's point, proximity was incredibly important for us as well. Wake Tech, as well as Shaw, we're both here in the Triangle area, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. And so I believe our main campuses are about 5 minutes apart. And Wake Tech is one of, if not the largest community college in North Carolina. And so it was a natural and obvious choice to partner with Wake Tech as our for this articulation agreement. In terms of time frame, this was about a year process, developing the articulation agreement, determining the correct mappings of courses, credit transfers. So it did take a little while to put everything in place and to actually get the agreement signed. But it's definitely well worth the effort.
One of the things you both had mentioned was the fact that your students appreciate that this is there are no sort of smoke and mirrors in this process. Now, when it came to actually crafting the agreement on your ends, were there any unexpected obstacles that might have popped up in the beginning?
I guess I can speak to that. One of the issues that cropped up towards the beginning was that 2+2. How do we map the courses into our Bachelor's of Science degree? Particularly for the Associates of Science, where not as many gen eds are taken as part of that degree program.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to build the course mappings to where a minimum of 60 credits came over, that was one of the biggest challenges that we had, at least initially. Working with our administration here at Shaw University, we came across the NCICU Independent Comprehensive Articulation Agreement with our community colleges here in North Carolina. And as part of that agreement, at least from Shaw's perspective, is if a student achieves their associate's degree, either Associate of Arts or Associate of Science, that satisfies the gen ed requirement on our end. And so that assisted us with building the mapping because those credits were applied towards their gen eds. Additionally, as part of our redesign of our computer science degree, we actually opened up more elective credits. And so that allowed for easier mapping, or at least transferability of courses that may not fit gen eds, may not fit the actual major requirement courses, but we could transfer those in as electives.
Thank you. And it looks like we've got a couple of really good questions from one of our attendees. And I'm just going to read those out so the audience can all hear those. Does this 2+2 program guarantee admission into Shaw for this degree? And if so, could you speak to the specifics of that?
Yeah, so obviously a student still has to apply to Shaw University and be accepted. But if they achieve their Associates of Arts or Associate of Science for this articulation agreement, specifically Associate of Science, it is a direct admission into Shaw. They still have to go through the admissions process, but they get preferential treatment coming into Shaw. And it's from what we've experienced with our transfer students, to Kathy's point, a lot of them are non-traditional. But at the same time, they are far more eager and motivated to complete their degree on time. And so to answer the question, yes, for the most part, as long as they get through the typical admission process.
Okay, and I'm going to continue because she asks another very good and very specific question that both of you could answer. Regarding the stakeholders that were involved in creating the agreement. So, Kathy, I'll let you begin.
Sure. From our perspective, we had several individuals involved. We had our provost over the IT division, our dean of the IT division. We also had instructors involved in the process who taught those core courses. So it was definitely a very involved process, and we had meetings with Shaw, including individuals from their divisions, to ensure that we were all communicating to understand what are we teaching at our level in these courses. Why do we feel there's a justification for awarding course credit, not elective credit, for some of these courses? So I think the great dialogue that we had with Shaw enabled them to have a great understanding of, instead of just reading a blip that's a course syllabi, to really understand why we feel that we're on the cutting edge, because we're really engaged with industry and understanding what our employers' needs are to ensure that our students are prepared to go out and work, and then translating those skill sets into academia. Okay, this is what we're teaching. This is what employers tell us students need to know to work. And then how's that going to translate into what Shaw is going to be able to award credit for our students?
And for any of those who work at a small liberal arts institution, you may understand this. we wear so many hats. It's particularly here at Shaw. And so from our end, our key stakeholders were mainly myself and our Dean of School of Business Professional Studies, who is my immediate superior, as well as our Vice President of Academic Affairs, to a much lesser degree. And so, as Kathy stated, we had several meetings spanning the course of several months where we combed through every aspect of our degrees. We mapped 2 of our degrees, computer science and cyber, to 4 degrees at Wake Tech. And so that obviously took some time. But we were able to get through, we were able to look at each course, develop a comprehensive mapping of all those courses, and come to a very strong agreement.
Thank you. All right. So tell us a little bit about what makes the best partner for a school. So, I'm sure that a 2-year institution may or may not have a different perspective on this than a 4-year institution. But what are some of those sort of green flags you want to look for in the relationship?
From our perspective as the community college partner, obviously we need to find institutions that offer applicable degrees for sometimes our very specialized associate and applied science degrees. Not every institution has a matching program of study. So we're looking and targeting those institutions that offer those degrees that would align with our associate and applied science degrees. And obviously, we're also looking at institutions that are well-known and well-regarded for what they do within those programs. So we're looking for programs of excellence, institutions that have an excellent reputation. So it was important for us to find not only an institution that offered that degree, but also one that we felt comfortable sending our students to, knowing that when they completed that bachelor's degree, they were going to have been given an excellent education and again have added skill sets to enable them to find employment within their career field without a challenge. So we're looking at those features. And also, as we've alluded to in the 2+2 agreement, knowing that we need to find institutions who are going to give our students and award them as many credits as possible so that the time to degree completion on that bachelor's degree as short as it possibly can be, while being also very affordable. Again, because our students are those non-traditional students, affordability is very important to them. So we're looking at institutions that might provide transfer scholarships or be able to assist our students maybe if they're not currently working, to ensure that they are going to be able to continue working in their career fields while they're pursuing and completing that degrees. Also, convenience, as James alluded to, is a factor. So for our students who might be working, if they're going to be taking seated classes and not the entire degree online, convenience is a huge factor for those students. And a lot of our students do prefer seated programs. They're looking where they can engage with those employers because a lot of them have done so while they've been at the community college with us. So those are probably some of our key factors when looking for an institution to partner with.
And to Kathy's point, where is that alignment at? To develop a seamless transition for students, not only for their credit transfers, but also learning outcomes. So where one institution hands off, the other one picks up. And so part of the identification of a partner for this agreement was, what do they have the degrees that align specifically with our degrees, and is there a seamless mesh between the two? For example, we offer a cybersecurity bachelor's of science degree. Wake Tech offers a associate of applied science in cybersecurity. Wake Tech offers a computer programming. We offer computer science. And so it was a natural kind of partnership, and it was an organic growth between our 2 institutions. And it just made sense, particularly because of proximity, how convenient it would be for students who attend Wake Tech to also attend Shaw University. And so those were some of our key elements for finding a partner.
So let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we say creating crosswalks and elective courses versus course for course degree within a degree program. Tell us a little bit about that process and what you mean when we say creating crosswalks as an important aspect of this agreement.
Very important for us, again, for our students, is how many courses that they're completing in their associate and applied science degree when they are transferred to that senior institution are going to count as equivalent course credit versus elective credit. So for our students, again, as they're considering their options, they're going to be more highly interested in an institution that awards more course for course credit for the courses they've completed in their associate and applied science degree, rather than receiving a lot of elective credits, because they realize then that's going to, again, increase their degree completion time, and also their out-of-pocket expenses are going to be much greater when that senior institution only awards elective credits. Again, we realize that we're not teaching courses at the 300 and 400 level like our senior institutions are. So again, this was why it was so critical for us to have those conversations so that everyone was able to understand, what do our courses look like? What are we teaching above and beyond, as I mentioned previously, just a short syllabus that may not share all the specific details about what our students learn in those courses. So we were very honored to be able to have those conversations with Shaw to ensure that our students could be awarded as many course for course credits within that associate applied science degree as possible. Obviously, we felt we garnered a lot of respect from Shaw for what we teach, and it was a very positive experience for us, for our faculty and our deans, to engage with them, to see that they valued what we're providing as far as education for our students. And again, as we're handing off our students, we felt like they were going to be valued and appreciated for their knowledge once they got to that office for advising at Shaw or sat in a classroom at Shaw.
That crosswalk is instrumental for the 2+2 agreement. It would be great to transfer in 30 credits, elective credits, into Shaw University. However, if those aren't applied to their major required courses, it's essentially irrelevant, and it would make that 2+2 nearly impossible. And so, kind of similar to what I was saying earlier, is where is that overlap for the courses and the transferability of courses into those major required classes? Obviously, there is a sequence to courses with their own set of prerequisites. And so we want to ensure that once students transferred in, it was truly 2 more years to complete, not just 60 credits remaining, because if those 60 credits are all in sequence, that could still be another 4 years. And so finding the classes, even if the course description wasn't identical, but the learning outcomes for those courses are very, very similar, can we map that to our class? Are they still getting the same outcomes that we would expect as if the course was taught here? If so, let's map that to our course and ensure that this 2+2 is feasible for any transfer students.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's just add into that conversation really quickly a little bit about mapping certifications into the agreement. I think that's a really particularly important aspect when we're talking about the applied sciences.
Well, this was natural. Within tech degrees, and particularly, and Kathy, you can obviously expand upon this, at the associate's level, certifications are critical to those degrees. And so we also made that a point here at Shaw to incorporate certifications into our degree as well. To name a few, the Cisco Certified Network Associate, the EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker, And so we wanted to, when we developed our degree, we wanted to assess what certificates or certifications were being taught at potential partner institutions. So if we were to develop our articulation agreement, could we map those directly into ours? And I'm happy to say we were able to do that. I know the CCNA we were able to map into our degree program. And Kathy, you can obviously expand upon that as well.
Well, I think it's important to think about, again, that community college student. A lot of our students come in simply seeking a certification so they can get their foot in the door in that new career field. So they begin perhaps with us with a certification. Then after completing it, they realize the need for additional education and then step up and complete a diploma program, and then eventually see the need for that associate in applied science degree. So many of our students came to Wake Tech just to get a certification, just to be able to enter their new career field. And as they're building on their skills and adding that additional education, then they've eventually completed their associate in applied science degree. So we wanted to ensure that we're giving them academic credit for those certifications, and that if we're working on agreements with those senior institutions, that they recognize those as well. So we were very pleased that Shaw was willing to do that, because again, that's how a lot of our students come to us. They just think they're going to get a certification and they're done, and before they know it, they've turned that into an associate in applied science degree. And we want them to see that it doesn't have to end there, that they can continue on and complete a bachelor's degree. So for a lot of our students who came to Wake Tech just saying, I was just going to get a certificate, that's all I was going to do, and before we know it, they're transferring and going to Shaw to complete a bachelor's degree.
And by building those certifications into our bachelor's program, it made the course mapping somewhat easier, because we could reasonably expect the same material that's being taught for the same certification at Wake Tech and Shaw University would align. And so that definitely helped us, at least from our end, in terms of mapping those courses, because again, they map to the certification. The learning outcomes should be identical.
Very helpful. I'm going to address a question that's in the chat. It says, some universities have caps on the number of core credit hours that can transfer into their major degree programs. Did you encounter this issue in crafting your agreement?
So I think I only encountered it once. Our cap at Shaw University is 70 credits. So that kind of gave us a lot of flexibility. I think the only time we came close to that was one degree program, I believe, had 69 credits. So luckily, we are able to avoid that kind of restriction, if you will, in terms of transferring the credits. So yeah, that was pretty much what we, from our end, encountered.
Okay. So thank you for answering that. And let's talk a little bit about pitfalls to avoid. When we met previously to kind of go over this, go over our questions and topics we wanted to make sure we covered, there were a couple of sort of standout pitfalls that we wanted to make sure were highlighted. And Kathy, I'm going to let you begin with the issue of gen eds.
Sure. As you can imagine, within an associate in applied science degree, our students are not taking that many general education courses. They are primarily taking their very degree specific courses. So it's always a challenge when we're speaking with our senior institutions about creating articulation agreements. The first thing that usually comes up is, well, there aren't enough gen eds in your program, or your students don't have all the gen eds that we're requiring. So for us, we want to make sure that whenever we're creating articulation agreements, that there is that understanding. Our students are not going to have as many gen eds, obviously, as a student who's in a traditional bachelor's degree program. So we're looking at what do our students need? Getting a very clear outline of when they get to your institution, what are those additional general education courses they're going to need to complete? Is it possible for them to take those additional general education courses with us at Wake Tech, even if they're outside their degree requirements before they transfer to you? Would you permit students to do that if we can't find that the gen eds that are needed when they get to your program are not within their associate in applied science degree? So we want to make sure that we discuss all the options so that our students can have the opportunity, even though they're not going to be taking as many as their bachelor's degree is going to require, if there are opportunities for them to complete them with us at perhaps a more economical cost in an environment where they're already comfortable, that they're able to do so. So for us, we realize that the lack of the gen eds in the associate and applied science degree is always going to create some challenges when we're working on those articulation agreements.
So I have two. The first one is in terms of time frame. So being realistic with how long this process could take, a year or more from inception, development, and then actually getting the agreement in place and signed. But that's not it. Obviously, you have to continue building the relationship, continue building that pipeline of students from institution to institution. And to kind of piggyback up on that point, creating those pathways of success for students. So when they transfer from one institution to another, essentially their future is being placed in the hands of the next institution. And so how do we create those pathways after that, right? How do we develop a clear pathway from one institution to the next and then beyond? The students that are transferring, for example, from Wake Tech, to Kathy's point, are more non-traditional students. And so how do we curate that relationship with potential employers, potential grad schools, to ensure those students are successful upon graduation? Our primary student population are traditional students at Shaw University. And so that's what we're primarily developing those relationships after college with employers with. However, developing and curating those relationships for those non-traditional students is critically important for their success. And so just being realistic with what all this agreement entails in terms of building it and maintaining it and even building it further from there. Those are some of the things that you kind of want to go into the process with your eyes wide open, and be realistic with what can be expected from this agreement.
And I think just to piggyback on something James said, agreements are wonderful and we're always excited when we create one. But if we're not making our students aware of the fact that they exist, then we've done a whole lot of work that's pretty futile. So it's really important on our part, as students are meeting with advisors to plan the courses they'll be taking within that associate in applied science degree, that we're asking them the question, do you think you'd be interested in pursuing a bachelor's degree? And what we find a lot of our students say is, no, I just want to get out and go to work. I need to make money. I need to, increase my earning potential. I need to have a job with benefits. And what we emphasize to them is it's never too late. You might get out and work for 6 months or a year and realize, I really need that bachelor's degree now to go even further than I ever anticipated that I could. So we want to make sure that while they're with us as a student, that we're making them aware of the fact that an associate in applied science degree does not have to be a terminal degree. I think a lot of people come to us and think, I got my associate in applied science degree and I'm done. That's it. I'm not going to have the option to go any further. So what we want to do is help them understand that that's completely changed. It doesn't have to be that way. There are opportunities for you. And what we want to do is ensure that through advising, that they're made aware of those opportunities and those options, so that when a student sits with one of our advisors and says, I just want to hurry up and get finished so I can get my degree and get out and go to work, we say, that's great. But did you know you could complete a bachelor's degree? And we have great partnerships with local institutions that will enable you to do that, so that we're making them aware of that through advising, through our transfer resources page, through events that we create with our senior institutions, so that students know it doesn't have to end there, and that they realize that they are going to be able to be successful when they go to those senior institutions. For a lot of our students, it's a challenge to get them to come and complete an associate in applied science degree. A lot of them lack confidence, self-esteem to think that they'll be successful. So for them, just to complete an associate in applied science degree is a huge accomplishment. So we have to continue to support them and help them realize this is just the first step. It doesn't end here, and let us introduce you to the next chapter. So for a lot of our students, it's very eye-opening to think, I've even gotten an associate in applied science degree, and now you say I can get a bachelor's degree. I never would have thought that. So we have to do a lot of work on our part to ensure that students know about the opportunities and the options that they have.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the support piece is important as well. Support and accommodating those students once they transfer into Shaw University. So for example, our classes are primarily offered during the day. However, non-traditional students, they may not be able to fit that within their schedule. And so how, again, going into the agreement with eyes wide open, being realistic with what we have to do in order to adjust to make this agreement successful. And so we've had to modify our modality, our course modality, to accommodate those students. And we've moved more towards a hybrid approach, mostly for our cyber courses right now. However, the plan is to eventually offer our degrees in a hybrid format for those non-traditional students, so that we can accommodate more coming into Shaw University. And again, being realistic, providing a clear pathway for them to succeed and for them to graduate.
Yeah, reducing those barriers. It's interesting to think about, but even in 2023, I mean, there are so many transportation barriers even that exist for our students, even within Wake County. Yep. So I think that's really bringing us full circle. I really appreciate all of those points that you've all raised today. I think we've had some really good conversations come in from our folks in the audience. And now I would just like for us to continue to open up to the audience and ask, all of these questions that we've received have been great so far. And Kathy and James have been so generous with their time. I do invite our audience members to take a moment, think through any questions they might have, and drop those in our chat. Thank you so much to my colleague Jayshree for adding that. Yes. Oh, and we have another. Let's see. So now that you have partnered with Wake Tech and created an agreement, do you plan to create more with other institutions?
Well, again, going back to that, how do we identify a partner for these articulation agreements? And so from our perspective at Shaw University, we are, again, a small liberal arts, primarily bachelor degree granting institution. So how do we develop pathways into Shaw and then beyond Shaw University? Obviously, Wake Tech make the most sense, right? The proximity, how close they are to Shaw University, their degrees align with what we're doing. And so that's what we're doing now. We're trying to identify other potential institutions that would align with our degrees and with those outcomes that we anticipate or expect from our students. More so, or moreover, once they graduate from Shaw, is there a pathway into grad school? Is there an ability to create a 3+1 for our students, accelerated BS to MS program? And so we're looking at all of these holistically. How can we potentially have a student transfer from Wake Tech to Shaw University and then beyond to a master's degree granting institution? So to answer the question, yes, but we want to take a methodical approach to this because we want to ensure each individual articulation agreement is successful and we have a pipeline of students coming from those or into those beyond Shaw University.
That's incredible to hear about. Thank you. And Kathy, I know you as representing Wake Tech, your institution partners with a variety of schools across the state. So, and across the triangle as well, I believe.
We do. Actually, we have several divisions of the college that have articulation agreements with institutions within North Carolina as well as some out of state.
Very good.
Pardon me.
No problem.
So again, we're just looking, we have within our associate and applied science degree, we have some very unique and niche programs. And sometimes it's challenging to find a senior institution that offers that degree. And it isn't within the IT, but I'll throw out electro-neurodiagnostic technology. That's a unique program within our health sciences division. And believe it or not, we have 3 senior institutions with articulation agreements, but they're all outside of the state of North Carolina. So again, we're always looking for excellent institutions to partner with that are going to serve our students' needs to go on and complete a bachelor's degree.
So, and this is something we didn't even touch on at the beginning. Do you find that a lot of times the need originates with the students demanding, or not demanding, but asking for the pathway and the pipeline to a 4-year degree? Or is that something that the administration kind of proactively provides? Or is it really something that bubbles up from the students?
At Wake Tech, I'd say it's some of both. Sometimes we have students who are very interested in completing a bachelor's degree after they've completed their associate and applied science degree, and they are asking, where can I go get a bachelor's degree? You know, I want to continue moving forward in this particular career field. Sometimes we're fortunate that our senior institutions reach out to us and say, we'd like to partner with you. Would you be interested? So it seems to go both ways.
Good.
And
okay. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just speak from our perspective. For our current students, they're looking for what's next. And so, as I was saying before, developing a 3+1 for our current students is a push, a little both from the students and from administration, because we have so many strong institutions in the Triangle area and in North Carolina in general. Building those partnerships, building those pathways for our students, it's a push from both.
Thank you. And I'm going to now read through a couple of questions that our registrants submitted in advance. So I don't mean to throw anyone for a loop here, but I'm going to begin with the first one that says, academic preparedness for engineering courses is a major concern as we are striving to increase our transfer student numbers into a rigorous academic field. How are community colleges ensuring the students are ready for that challenge?
That's a great question. I think we have a lot of supports in place on community colleges for students to take advantage of. We have individualized learning centers that offer tutorial services for students to take advantage of. And when instructors are identifying students who are experiencing challenges, whether it be in mathematics courses or science courses, they're referring students to take advantage of what tutorial services are available to them through our individualized learning centers. Again, because our courses have much smaller class sizes and caps on those courses than, say, NC State, who might have a couple of hundred students in a lecture hall. I think, again, we're able to focus and provide more individualized instruction for students from an actual instructor or professor rather than a teaching assistant, and at the same time providing those extra tutorial services. Even at our community college, along with others across the state, we have courses that students have to take if they're not prepared to enter, say, their first college credit math or English course. They're taking courses in tandem to help them to be prepared to successfully complete those courses. So we're very cognizant of the fact that we have to prepare our students to be successful when they transfer out and leave us. And a lot of studies that we've looked at when we're comparing our students to native students at some of the larger state-supported universities, we're doing as well, if not better, our students are.
Well, and so let me bring us to our final question for the afternoon. And I think this is a good one. So how much, or I guess what percentage, there are a couple of different ways to read this question. How much can articulation agreements be templated to scale across institutions? So I would say, what percentage of the agreement that was crafted between Wake and Shaw, what percentage of that agreement could be templated, do you think, if we were to task you all with that today?
Well, I guess I'll speak from my perspective. Partnering with public institutions, it becomes a lot easier because there is a governing body that ensures that the degrees have similar alignment. I know with private institutions, it's kind of the wild, wild west in terms of degree composition and the courses. So in terms of this articulation agreement, mapping this to other community colleges, since Wake Tech is one of the largest, again, if not the largest in North Carolina, mapping that becomes a little bit easier with other potential community college partners, because a lot of the degrees kind of follow Wake's lead. And so along with that, within cybersecurity, the National Security Agency, they designate academic programs as part of their Center for Academic Excellence initiative. And so to achieve that designation requires a lot of comprehensive review of a degree program. And so a lot of those degrees align with one another as well. So that, again, that makes a potential future mapping a little bit easier. I like to think about 60% of the current agreement has been made, particularly because all of the courses offered at the community college level are on display. And so the courses that we've mapped, we can take that to another institution. And if they're using the same classes, we already have the mapping in place.
Very helpful. All right, folks. Well, thank you for sharing and being so transparent with this process. I think your wisdom is just invaluable. And as I mentioned at the start, there are just so many lessons learned to share out with other faculty and staff who are beginning this journey. So thank you very much today to both of you for sharing your wisdom with all of us and your experience, and for doing it with a smile. That's great. That's always a good sign at the end of a working relationship, right? So thank you very much. And we are delighted for those of you who have joined us today. We would be deeply appreciative if you would complete our evaluation form. This is the beginning of our Scaling Up series, and we would love to hear from you about how things went today and how we can improve, and what topics you're interested in learning about through this series. So, and if you are interested in sharing or presenting on a topic that is relevant to a national audience, we're interested in hearing about that as well. So don't be shy and feel free to reach out to us. We will be sharing this link in the chat. Good question. Once again, Sarah Griggs with the great questions today. We will be sure to drop this in the chat. And we will also be sending out wrap-up materials, including the recording for this event. I do want to encourage all of you to check out datascienceconsortium.com. That is the NCDS website. We have a couple of events coming up that might be of interest to you. We are hosting a Data Bytes event next week on the risks of facial recognition technology. This is based on an exciting paper I read by Talia White, third-year law student at New York University. I hope you can join us for that event. And we will also be sharing information about our upcoming career event, career panel. That is a virtual panel that will take place on the 17th. You can find out more information on our website about that as well. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It really was a pleasure to learn from you, and I look forward to hearing from our audience about what they thought about the event today. But thanks so much. Take care, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.